Hi, welcome to another video. I'm Alex Borman and today we're looking at how you might set individual students in your group different values for variables in a numerical calculation question, whether it be a formative assessment or a summative piece of coursework or online assessment. So a lot of places are doing this now, and that they're giving different students different values to submit into the same question to come out with different results. And often students are looking down a long list of different combinations of variables, and then when they're reading across their student ID, reading it across into the different, reading across the row, they're not necessarily reading the correct row, maybe substituting in the wrong values, not getting it as they should, and they're losing marks because potentially they're just misreading a table of data. So this is an alternative way of setting different values for your students. So jumping into Excel, we've got a workbook that I've set up here. I've got 3 problems from engineering mechanics that I teach, and I've taken some diagrams and generalized them. So we've got, rather than specific lengths being shown, we've got the letter L, and rather than a specific force, we've got a value P. To mention the second one, again, we've got a P force here and an angle theta, but we're not being specific as to what that is. And similarly, the third one, we've got a series of lengths, but we've got no specific details. So students would be confronted with this first sheet, and you can personalise this to whatever you need, but the key point is the only thing they need to enter is their student ID in this coloured cell. So if I put a student ID in there, our student IDs are 8 digits. If I jump to the first problem, you can see that's now populated at the bottom. It says for this question, for your question, L is equal to 9 and P is equal to 90. And similarly for all of the different questions, it's feeding in angles, coefficients of friction, masses of crates. And again for the centroid question there, the different lengths and the different mass per unit length. So how's it doing it? I'll go back to the first one. They all work in the same way, but I'll go back to the first sheet. I'll unprotect it briefly, and I'm just going to turn everything back to a black font. So the first thing it does is it reads through from the top sheet what the student ID is. Then over on the right here, we've got the 8 digits, because our student IDs are 8 digits. It reads out the 8 digits of the student's ID. So you can see here I'm looking at the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth. If I do that and just put a grid on, you can see it a little bit easier. So you can see what our formula is saying here is it's checking, is the digit a 0? Because if there's a 0 in there, it might cause us some problems. And the reason I've used the mid function is so I can just drag and copy this across 8 times without having to change it. So it's saying if the mid function, so if the first, so F3, if the first value of cell D4 for one character, so it's only reading one character at a time, if it's equal to 0, then I want you to show whatever's in F3, otherwise show me whatever the first character of that cell is. If I look in the next one, it is exactly the same thing, apart from it's looking at the second character of the student ID. And again, all the way to the end, and the third and the 7th character, the 8th character. What that will do, if I go back to my sheet and I put in an 8-digit number, of course it's going to put 8 zeros, isn't it? Let's change that. So that would not be a very good question if it just pulled out zeros for all the variables. So instead, it's pulled out 1 as being the first digit, but for all the others, it's pulled out, it said, well, the second digit is a 0, so use the place value instead. So the second, it's the second digit, so use 2 instead. Use 5 instead of 0 for the 5th digit. For most students, they're not going to have that many zeros. That's not enough. So we've pulled out, and you can see here it's pulled out those 8 digits separately. The last piece, if we go down to where the actual words are being input, so this was actually done a few years ago where we were using the concatenate function. That's now redundant in the newest version of Excel, so you can do this in a slightly shorter way using ampersands. But we've got a piece of text here, so for your question, comma, L equals, that's all text that's fixed, an ampersand, and then K4, so K4 is my value 9, and the force, so we go ampersand space and P, so the space is part of the text that's fixed, and then M4 times 10, so whatever my 8th value is times 10, to make it into a number that's big enough for a sensible force to be in the question. Similarly, in here, need to unprotect the sheet. So we've got some fixed text. It's breaking down in the same way. It's just hidden as white text at the moment. But we've got some free text. We've got our angle is going to be our third digit, our blue cell here, times 10 over 2, just to make it slightly different. Coefficient of friction is going to be 0 point, and then 2 numbers from our student ID, and the mass of the crate is going to be this cell times 100. So again, it's using different values from the student ID. Every student is going to have a slightly different set of variables to work from. And that is how you can set different students the same question with different variables in a very easy and predictable way that you can then go at the other end of the coursework for the marking, and you can work out if you do this cell times this cell, if you do this value from a student's ID times this value, you should get this answer. You can do all the mark schemes individually for the students as well, using the same breakdown and the same method of identifying the variables. Hope that was useful. If you are interested in other videos that I'm putting up online as well, don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you do use this and find it useful, or your students find it useful and interesting, please do leave comments. It's always good to hear how other people are using the same sorts of ideas. Thank you.